Hi, I'm Christine. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm here with my February end of the month wrap up. So for February, I ended up reading 32 books for the month. I do have my mid-month wrap-up where I already talk about the 18 books I read for the first half of the month. So I'll link that in the description of the video as well as up in the cards. So if you missed that one, you can go back and check out what I thought about those books, since we're just going to be talking about the 14 books I read for the last half of the month in this video. So as always, if you ever want to see more of my thoughts or my full reviews on any of the books that I read, I do review every book I read. You can get to my reviews through Goodreads, where I chat about the books even more than I'm going to do in this video. So you can see all of my reviews on Goodreads, which is always linked in the description of all of my videos. And as always, if you ever want to follow me on Instagram and see all the books that I'm reading currently and kind of more bookish content, definitely do so as well. That's linked in the description of the video as well. So with all of that out of the way, let's get into the books that I read for the last half of February. So like I said, I have 14 to chat about. Kind of in February, I think I talked about it at the mid-month wrap-up and at the beginning of the month, how I was kind of in a reading slump after my January reads, which were a ton and so many good ones. So February, while I did have some great reads, I didn't have a ton of good ones, and so some of these are going to be misses for me. Sadly, I think I have a few in here that are new favorites, so that is always a good thing, but I didn't get to as many as I hoped to get to this month, so there is that. I'm definitely in a fantasy and kind of like paranormal romance mood right now, so a ton of those are going to be that kind of vibe as well. All right, so I had an audio ALC of Mint for Stone by Natasha Madison. This one is out now. This one came out at the end of February, and this one I'm going to sadly give 2 stars to. I really didn't enjoy this one. I had a really hard time with it. If you want an overly smutty book, this one's going to be that. A lot of smut, little plot. I wanted more. I have read quite a few of her books now, all different series, and her books are kind of hit and miss for me, but they're usually kind of, you know, in the middle range. This one was just not it for me. I didn't enjoy it. This one's kind of a spin-off of a couple of her other like generation books. And so in this one, the hero is a hockey player. He's from this like hockey player dynasty family. The heroine is kind of from this like celebrity dynasty family, I guess you could say. It's their romance. This one was just a miss for me on all counts. Very horny and smutty. So if you want that, this one is that for you. Just a miss for me, 2 stars. So then I talked about for February, I was doing a reread of House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J. Maas. 3rd book in the Crescent City series. I love this book so much. It was my favorite read of January. I wanted to jump into it immediately, and so I did that. I love to reread, especially Sarah J. Maas books. So this was a reread, 5 stars again. Love it so much. Continuation of the series. It's book 3. Can't say too much else. It's a wild time. Then like I said, I was just kind of craving and wanting more fantasy, so I jumped into The Book of Azrael by Amber V. Nicole. This one had been on my TBR for I think like a year. My best book friend was raving about this series for forever to me and telling me to get to it, and so I was like, yeah, I'll get to it. I'll get to it in the fall. I'll get to it in the winter. Okay, I'm getting to it in February, and I got to it, and I loved it, and it was 5 stars. So this is the first book in her Gods and Monsters series, and this is actually a debut from the author. This is her only series so far, and this one was just everything I ever wanted and more. It was so good. High fantasy. I love the world building in here. We deal with kind of gods and monsters and celestials and kind of all of those things. Absolutely obsessed. I loved it so much. I loved the kind of creation of these different dimensions and worlds and all this like overlapping information coming at you. I was obsessed. I loved how the heroine, we get like a villainous heroine, which I am here for. I loved it so much. Twists and turns along the way. I just like ate this book up and loved it so much. I could talk about it forever, but kind of get into like spoilery stuff, so I don't want to. So if you're kind of in the mood for like a heavier fantasy book with a romance in there as well, definitely like a lot of world building and kind of like these monsters and gods and kind of all living amongst each other. So good. I love it. Then I jumped into a book 2 in the series, which is The Throne of Broken Gods, and again gave this one 5 stars. I think this one is more like 4.5 for me, but just barely, and so I'm giving it 5 stars as well. I love this one. It's a continuation of the first book, so kind of where things left off there, which I'm not going to say. You jump into that right away with this book. You learn more things that you were wondering about in book 1. Those answers get answered here. You're also left with a couple more questions because I mean it's a continuation of a series. I think there's going to be 6 or 7 books. I'm so excited. I love it. Like if you want truly villainous characters as main characters, this book is that. Ugh, the revenge, the violence, like it is just so good. I'm obsessed with this book so much, this series. Love it so much. 5 stars for both of these. Then I had an audio ALC of Moonlit Thorns by P. Rain. This is the kind of author duo pen name for Piper Rain. And so this is kind of their darker stuff that they do. I was obsessed with this. I've never read from this author duo before, but I love this book and ate it up. I gave it 4.5 stars. This one just came out at the very end of February. If you love Beauty and the Beast retellings and kind of want a darker secret society, age gap, billionaire, anti-hero, all of these things going on, this book is that. Very much Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I was here for it. Like, I loved it so much. Basically in here, the heroine finds out that after her father died, her family's house is going to be like taken away. It's in debt, and so she goes to the kind of neighboring manor where the hero and his brothers live, and she goes to them and is like, hey, can you help me out? Because I think they own her debt, or they're like calling it in or something like that. And so she's like, I want to save my family's home. Can you help me out? So the hero is like, okay, I will help you out and give you back your family's home if you promise to come and live with me and work for me for 1 whole year. And so she's like, oh my God, I'll do anything. Like, yes. So she does that. She starts working as kind of like a housekeeper in the house, and she's very pulled to the hero. He's very pulled to her. And so she kind of starts to learn some secrets about him and his family along the way. Like I said, it has secret society vibes, BDSM, kind of all of those fun things. And I was just here for it. Like, I loved it. It's just fun, entertaining, fast, like Beauty and the Beast vibes. It was kind of everything I wanted at the time. So I loved it. It's the first in a new series, and I'm here for it. 4.5 stars. Then I did a read along with some friends for the Wraith King series by Grace Draven for February. And so we were reading the books in the series, the 3 like full length books that is. So I did a reread of Radiance, which I had read Radiance back 4 years ago. And so this was a reread for me. And I gave this one 4 stars, which is what I gave it originally. This is just a super solid friends to lovers, a fantasy romance, which we were talking about in the live show, how like friends to lovers is something you don't see often with fantasy romances. And I love that for that. I love this couple so much. This is very much a character driven book, which I'm just here for because I love the couple. And this is an arranged marriage where the heroine's from the human kingdom. She is the niece of the king in the human kind of kingdom. And then the hero is from the Kai, and his people are not attracted to humans at all. She also thinks he is like repulsive as well. And so I love that they both think one another is like repulsive, kind of like in a cute, charming, endearing way. Like, they're just disgusted by each other. And so they've kind of both been just kind of on the path of like, this is my life and I know what's expected of me. And so they know they're going to get married. And so they decide, you know what, like, let's kind of make this work. Like, we could become friends. So they become friends along the way, and it kind of goes from there. They of course fall in love and start to think each other's like things that they thought were repulsing before, like they start to love about each other. So there is that. So good. I love this couple, Ildiko and Brishan, forever. Loved it. 4 stars. Then I had to jump into the next 2 books in the series, which I had never read before. So the first one is a direct follow-up to Radiant, so that is Eidolon, and this one we follow Brishan and Ildiko again, which is the couple of the first book, and we learn some things along the way, like becoming a Wraith King, what all that involves, and it kind of goes from there. This one has more plot towards the end of the book, so this one, it kind of lost me. Like, I love the couple, 0 complaints about the couple, love them so much. Kind of the story and the whole like world and what was happening, I kind of wanted both more and less from. Like, I felt like it was very long and repetitive in some parts, and I kind of wanted things to work out differently or be explained differently, I guess you could say. So this one I gave 3 stars to. So then I jumped into the 3rd book, which is The Hippos King, and this one I gave 3 stars to as well. This is the latest full-length book into the series. So this one we follow a totally different couple, which I did really appreciate that, because I feel like if you're going to follow the same couple throughout the whole series, like, you need to mix it up. So we did that. And this one, the hero is human and the heroine is Kai. She's actually the cousin of the hero of the first 2 books. So I really like that. She's like this badass warrior who helps people train, and I just love her. I love how she's known for like her strength and kind of like how much of a warrior she is. She's known for that. And so I loved how the heroine here kind of sees her softer side, brings out a softer side to her, and loves her for more than just like her warrior strength. So I did really love them. Like, 0 complaints again about the couple. It's just kind of like the world and things happening, and like the length of books or what kind of makes me give them 3 stars. So yeah, I don't know. Like, Radiance is easily my favorite from Grace Draven, and I'm not sure if like her other books are maybe for me. So, I mean, it is what it is. Next, I jumped into Tempting Promises by Corinne Michaels. This is the 3rd book, I think, now in her Whitlock family series. This one just came out in the end of February. I love this book. So book 1, I loved the most. Book 2 was kind of a miss for me, and book 3, so solid. Loved it so much, I gave it 4 stars. The audiobook in particular is so good for this one. The hero and heroine hate each other, which I love. A true like hate to love kind of vibe going on. Has forbidden aspects as well, where basically the hero was the heroine's sister's ex in the past, and so she kind of hates him for reasons of what her sister said, and kind of goes from there. And so yeah, she's like the bane of his existence, and she can't stand him. So I love that there's like a mutual hatred towards one another, but basically they get thrown together because they're in kind of the same friend group in this small town. They end up going on a kind of like camping trip with their friends. They end up in the same room, having to share a room, and then they decide to go like out hiking kind of separately, but they end up kind of snowstormed in a blizzard, stuck together, and so they have to kind of take refuge in a cabin together, so they're stranded in the woods, and it goes from there. Like, the hate to love banter and tension in here, ugh, so good. Sizzling, scorching, love this one. So yeah, so good if you want a good like fun, spicy, steamy hate to love, all that tension, small town romance. This one's one's definitely that. Then, like I said, I've been in like fantasy and paranormal, so I jumped back into a paranormal. So I jumped into Feral Sins by Suzanne Wright. This is the first book in the Phoenix Pack series. So I had never read this author before, but I have seen her books around, and I know like she has a ton of paranormal romances. So this one was actually recommended to me from Amazon, and it was like, hey, you might like this book. And also it's available with Kindle Unlimited with the read and listen feature. So I was like, let's give it a go. So I jumped into it and I gave it 3 stars. So this one, there are parts that I enjoyed about it, but it's also like written in kind of the mid 2010s, and it has that vibe kind of throughout. So it kind of feels dated reading it now, but like it was entertaining and fun at the same time. So yeah, 3 stars for this one. Basically, this one is a werewolf shifter romance series where the hero kind of took over his own dad when he was 14 and decided to start his own pack. And so he, for like political reasons, he wants like political allies, he decides to kidnap the heroine who is from a different kind of wolf shifter pack. And so the story starts off with her waking up because he drugged her, and she is now with his pack, and he kind of tells her his idea of he wants them to pretend to be mates, like fake mates. So he's like, you can come live with my wolf pack at kind of our compound, pack, den, whatever you want to call it. And so, you know, he will get political allies and she will get out of this kind of arranged mate bond that's kind of being forced upon her. So it kind of helps out both of them. And so she decides to go along with it. They both had lost their mates in the past. So I kind of like how that was explored in this kind of series. Also, the heroine is an alpha as well as the hero. So that was interesting. I like how she is a healer and can do all of that. I like kind of the side characters as well. This one just felt a little bit too long. And like I said, some of the stuff is very dated feeling when you're reading it because it is published, I think, in like 2013, 2015 range. So it feels like that at times. It has a very much like overly quippy, witty heroine, which I mean isn't always my favorite things. Like I am all for a sassy, kind of sarcastic heroine, but like when that's all they say all the time, it kind of gets old. So there is that going on. So yeah, this one was kind of fun and entertaining. Gave it 3 stars. I might continue on with the series at some point because like I said, they're all available with the read and listen feature on Kindle Unlimited. So basically if you grab the Kindle Unlimited ebook, you get the audio with it to listen to while you have the book checked out on KU. So I do love that. So I might get to it because like I said, I did like some of the side characters and would be curious where the series goes from there. But yeah, 3 stars. Then I had an audio ALC of The Awakening of Ivy Leovold from Sierra Simone. This is the first book in her Markham Hall series, which this series has been on my TBR for literally like years. I think like 4 or 5 years at this point. It came out a long time ago, but the audiobooks are getting either redone or just getting done for the first time. So this one was available on NetGalley. So I requested it and got it and finally jumped into it thanks to the audio ALC. And I had a good time with this one. I think I'm going to give it like 3.5, maybe 4 stars. This one, if you love like Jane Eyre and Rebecca and Crimson Peak, like if you love that kind of like a gothic vibe, this one has all of that, and it's also erotica as well, so it has that going. It's just a fun time. This is like set in historical setting. Basically the heroine in this one, she's 19, her brother recently passed away, and before that their parents had passed away, so she's all on her own. She can't live by herself, and so she ends up kind of reaching out to her late cousin's husband, who is the hero. He is Mr. Markham, and so she reaches out to him and is like, hey, I need a place to stay and live. And so he's like, yeah, come to Markham Hall, you can come live here. She gets there. Of course, things are not as it seems. She kind of learns some secrets along the way. She's super pulled to the hero, Julian Markham, and it kind of goes from there. This one's actually a novella, which I didn't know before going in, but like it was a fun bite-sized little read. It definitely doesn't leave on an HEA, so I feel like I need more, so hopefully they put the rest of the audios on NetGalley soon. So yeah, 3.5 stars / 4 stars for that one. All right, and then again, like I said, back to fantasy, paranormal, all of those things. So I have had this Angels of Elysium series on my TBR / also on my bookshelves for quite some time now. I have some special editions that Arcane Society did. So I have those on my shelves and have been wanting to try out this author for the longest time. So this is the Angels of Elysium series by Olivia Wildenstein, and the first book is Feather. So this is an angel romance series, which I haven't read a ton of angel romances, so I'm kind of new to that kind of subgenre, I guess, of paranormal. So this one was just like a fun time. These are all available for the whole like trilogy on Hoopla and Libby, so definitely check there if you want to. The audios are really well done. So basically in here we follow these angels where the heroine is an angel where they don't have all of their feathers for their wings yet, and so she's trying to get all of her feathers for her wings so she can get into the land of Elysium, which is like the land of angels and all of that, and kind of like ascend up into there. And so she is on Earth trying to help out with like good deeds and things like that for the people on Earth, and like through that she will earn feathers for her wings, and when she has enough she gets into Elysium. So the heroine's on Earth and she is helping this kind of Parisian mafia boss, and so that's the hero, and so she's trying to help him be good because like if she can help him out and get his like, they all have these like scores or things for like how good or bad people are, and so if she can get his score down to a certain amount, she will earn like 100 marks / feathers, which would be enough for her to get into Elysium. So she's trying to help him out, and then along the way she ends up kind of being pulled towards him. She also learns some secrets, which I always really love when a character kind of feels like they know what's going on and then their whole world's kind of shaken up because they realize like things that they thought they knew are not the case. There's been like lies and secrets, you know, in their world. So I always love that in like fantasy and paranormals. So that has this going on in it as well. I also just kind of liked how the whole like angel world setup works and all of that with the characters. This one is a Romeo and Juliet retelling. So take that for what it is and just know, you know, where it's gonna go. So this series though, especially, like, I wouldn't recommend stopping at book 1 because like book 1 I didn't really love. Like I gave it 3.5 stars. It feels very young and kind of reads that way, and like some of the things I was like, okay, I don't care about. Feels a little long, things like that. But I decided to jump into book 2 because people were like, book 2 is so good, like the standout of the series, you got to get to it. It follows a different couple. So I decided to jump into it. And so then reading book 2, which is the next one I'm going to talk about, is Celestial. I gave this one a 4/4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it a lot more. It's a hate to love situation. And like reading and continuing on in the series, you're going to appreciate the first book more of kind of where things were setting up and going. So just know that, like, if you stop at book 1, you're not going to like this series. If you continue on, you're going to appreciate what was happening in book 1 and what it was setting up. So just know that. So yeah, Celestial is book 2. I gave this one 4/4.5 stars. And like I said, in this one, we have a hate to love setup where the heroine is kind of friends with the heroine of the first book. This is 4 years later. She's sad over things that happen and kind of disappointed and kind of things that happen at the end of that book. And so she hates the hero, which he is an archangel and he was kind of involved in things that went down in that book. And so she hates him, and she is basically an angel who is just deciding to give up. She doesn't care about her wings, getting into Elysium. She's just like living on the earth / mortal world. And so she doesn't care. And so she's just down there, and then he comes back into her life and he's like, hey, you definitely need to get your wings. And like, maybe if I tell you some things, let you in on some secrets, you're going to want to get up here to like Elysium with me. So that happens. She learns some things about the world and the series. Like this whole series kind of explores like souls and reincarnation and kind of things like that. So I kind of love that, like this whole like soulmate bond and all those things. So yeah, 4.5 stars. Then the third book in the series is Starlight. This one I'm giving 4 stars to as well. Just a super strong series. Like I said, when you read book 1, you might not want to continue on, but like everything will make more sense if you continue on. So I don't know, there's kind of like a confusing way to go about things, but it makes sense when you read it. Like I said, this one has like souls and reincarnation and soulmates. So just know that this book, you're going to want to get to it, is what I'm going to say. So I really enjoyed this book. The hero and heroine in this one, they have a hate to love vibe. They, again, learn some secrets and some things and feel this like connection to one another. That's all I'll say. 4 stars. I really enjoyed this series. I definitely recommend getting to it if you haven't checked it out yet. All right, so those are all of the books that I read for the last half of February. Definitely let me know in the comments if you read any of these books as well. Maybe what some of your favorite reads for February were. I would love to know. To kind of like wrap up the whole month, I will talk about my standouts for the month. So first up was Serpentine Valentine. Read this at the beginning of the month. Sapphic, dark, Medusa retelling, revenge plot, so good. Such a good sapphic romance by Gianna Darling. I loved that one. Another favorite is Where We Belong by Ashley Munoz. This is the second book in her Stone Riders MC series. So it is an MC, small town, kind of lighter on the MC vibes as far as like other MC series I've read. So just know that. This one is, like I said, small town, hate to love, forced proximity. So good. The most tortured, broody hero who falls so hard for the heroine. Loved this one. And then my fantasies that I loved was The Book of Azrael and The Throne of Broken Gods by Amber V. Nicole. Fantasy romances with gods and monsters and celestials and kind of villainous characters. So good. Loved that series so much. Can't wait for the third book, which comes out in May. Also, I really enjoyed Moonlit Thorns. If you want kind of a BDSM, Secret Society, Beauty and the Beast retelling, this one is so entertaining and fun. And then this Angels of Elysium series by Olivia Wildenstein. Really enjoy these. The second book in particular is my favorite, which is Celestial, but you have to read the first book to understand the second book, so just know that. All right, so those were my standouts and faves for the month. Definitely, like I said, let me know what your standouts or favorites were for February as well. I would love to know. If you'd like to leave me an emoji in the comments instead to let me know that you watched this video, maybe leave me like a skull or a skeleton emoji since I have my little skeleton reader girl sweatshirt on today. So yeah, do that. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, and I will see you in my next one.